Gardens,
Okay.
Castlebar, and so I think he got all their leftover stuff.
Gotcha. Yep.
What I said was, if you take, and that's apply to the interest rates. They're always in place. So they may we'll get twice as many people that's gonna.
We're gonna take them out of the way.
It's not that they're not gonna do it, it's when they're gonna do it. So you just have to. Right. 1 minute.
It gets so quiet right before it starts.
But if you the final 30 seconds. Did somebody fall off your roof?
Mhm.
One of the guys on the roof. Somebody heard it on the scanner.
Actually wore off the top rung of the ladder before stepping onto it.
You all right?
Yes,
Luckily.
didn't break anything.
Wow. Really?
No internal injuries.
It's 6:30 in Readfield, Maine. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm always excited when there's a truck in the dooryard before I get here. It means we have some entertainment coming, maybe. So thanks for joining us for a regular select board meeting tonight, November. This is the wrong, no, it's not, December 8th. So our first item tonight is 26-039, the minutes of our November 24th meeting.
Make a motion to approve them?
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 4, Catherine?
Abstaining due to absence.
Thank you very much. All right, 26-040, warrants 23 and 24, Rebecca.
Yes, of note on that warrant, it is $2,208.60 to the Secretary of State for motor vehicles, $3,046.49 to Bangor Truck Equipment. That was for equipment maintenance in the pickup truck. $1,588.65 to Central Maine Agency on Aging. That's a nonprofit donation. $4,235.11 to Challenger Teamwear. That's for basketball and cheering. $1,603.33 to LJB Incorporated for a capital project. It said sidewalk.
Correct.
Okay, the sidewalk project. $7,698.57 to New England Salt Company for road salt. $371,618.11 to the RSU for the school payment. $47,666.65 to Scott Horn Construction for winter maintenance contracted services. $5,771.03 to the Secretary of State for motor vehicles. And $1,405 to Beartran Incorporated for the elevator.
Oh no, what happened to the elevator?
It gets used. It's older. Yeah,
It's used.
I mean,
Or is it that it doesn't?
we had an issue where the door wasn't latching 100% and it would seize up, so we had to have it have them service it. So it was basically routine maintenance. But with elevator repairs, so routine maintenance, it's kind of like a boat unit. It's
Right.
$1,000. Yeah.
Just for calling, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve warrants 23 and 24 in the amount of $488,625.57.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Select board communication. Does anybody have anything on their goals to mention? Seeing none, we're going to move on to staff communication. Eric, town manager and treasurer report.
Okay, just a second here. Adobe now has about 15 different ads I have to click through just to get to the basic content. Okay, but this is a fairly brief town manager's report. Too much there. Start with roads and maintenance. Matt and Scott Horn handled the first big storm of the winter quite well. We did have some mailbox damage, but those were replaced promptly and repaired promptly by Scott. That he is aware that they sometimes clip things. It's not intentional. And if anybody does have damage, please just reach out to Scott or the town office and we'll make sure it gets looked at. We can't guarantee it will be replaced because sometimes mailboxes are old and rotten or sometimes they're not the right height, but we will do our best if it's a fault of the plow contractor to make sure those things get fixed. So let's see, we did also have an issue with the Bobcat where it was repaired, but not repaired properly by the service technicians. They actually messed up the timing and had some hoses not correctly connected. So when we had that storm, we had to be creative and treating the sidewalk, but Matt was able to get the truck blade up the plow and scrape some of that and use the bucket on the Bobcat. So regardless, the work got done, but the moral of the story there is that we have had our first winter storm of note, and the maintenance crew and plow contractor are working out the kinks, so we'll be ready for the next one, I think, in pretty good order. Extensive revisions were made to the road maintenance contract and RFP. And that's going to be discussed later tonight. The road committee will be reviewing that and any edits or suggestions from the select board at their next meeting, which is this coming Thursday. Technology and communications, all staff have been set up with their .gov emails, and I prepared instructions and developed communication with each employee to help move things along. It was a learning process for me because I'm becoming familiar with this Google Workspace stuff as well. But I was able to do a few things. I set up the super user accounts. So we have 2 of those now. So we have some redundancy there, which is important with security and backups and access. I also started setting up some committee Google Drives, really as a way to practice setting up our own internal accounts. And then we also have 2-factor authentication set up. So when you folks log into the Google Workspace, if you haven't, it will ask you to input a phone number to use to send a code to. And that way we can pretty much guarantee that folks that aren't authorized won't be accessing our network. Right now we have physical control because the files are all located right here at the office on our server. But when they go to the cloud, we need to make sure all those doors are shut. And that's what that 2-factor authentication helps do for us. And then Zach from Central Maine Technology has managed the email migration and email forwarding started over the weekend. So we're getting towards the middle of this migration. I think we're doing okay with it, but there are always hiccups. With that push and ongoing effort, I think we'll be able to get most of this done by the end of the calendar year. Always with these type of projects, it's dictated by how people respond, and we might have things that are delayed, but I think we're in a good spot, and we're seeing some big changes come through. Moving on to administration, I did revisit the draft discretionary assistance policy that's on the agenda later today, as well as the emergency operations plan. I updated that. Minor updates there. I'm working with MMA salary survey to develop a new proposed wage schedule for union and non-union employees. Right now, we are focusing on the AFSCME, the union employees, because we're negotiating that contract at this point. However, my approach is always to treat all the employees equitably and to look at a wage scale that's essentially similar to what other municipalities have and taking some averages. But long story short is that in order to stay average, we will have to increase wages for some positions. In some positions, we might have to make some pretty sizable increases because we have been doing just cost of living over the past couple of years. What we're seeing is that with municipal salaries, they're not increasing evenly. Some are increasing higher than others. So anyway, just a little bit of story on that calculation that's being conducted. And it'll affect the budget process. And Sean and Jaron will need to meet with the ASME rep sometime next week. So I'll let you know about that. We have a staff meeting planned for the afternoon of December 18th. And I want to thank Catherine again for organizing the gift baskets for the staff. They always appreciate that.
What time do I need to be here?
I'd say around, do you want cookies or do you want to come in later?
Of course I want.
Well, I'd say
cookies.
then 2 o'clock.
Okay.
About
You just
2 o'clock
set it up in
should do it, yeah.
Thank you.
And that'll give us time to set up and get everybody here. So we're currently hiring for either full or part-time positions in maintenance and at the transfer station. So if anybody knows anybody looking for that type of work, we have a real set of opportunities here. The town is a great employer, and we can be flexible. We do have a few things that we need to fill, but if someone wants to work part-time in a few different places, or if someone wants to work full-time, we can prioritize and maybe balance some things out. So there's a little bit of opportunity there to create a position that works for an individual and not just for the town. So keep that in mind, please, and spread the word. Last thing here I have is communication, community services and programming. Jen has the basketball and cheer programs pretty well under control. You saw some of that in the warrants. And we're looking forward to a few months of quiet without a major event. The next big thing is the Winter Carnival that's coming up. And that's not a big one to organize, but she could use some time to focus on other things. We're wrapping up background checks and again discussing the need for a formal policy. This year we finally said, everybody that's coaching has to have a background check, and everybody that is involved with youth activities through the town in a higher risk environment has to have a background check as well. So we're pushing that, and I'm glad we are. And the last point is that the Christmas tree lighting and cookies and cocoa and all that at the town office last Friday night, it was cold, but it was very well attended. We had probably 120 people here. Matt spent half the day cleaning up the floor, and we still got to go over it again. But it was a lot of people. They tracked in a lot of mud. So that's my town manager report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Eric?
Well, I do. First thing you started off with the skid steer.
Yep.
You said you had work done, but it was done wrong. So did they fix it now?
Yeah, they came in and did work on site, and
So who paid for that?
town of Readfield paid for it originally, but they're not charging us for the rework.
No.
As expected. Yep.
Okay, Eric, treasurer's report.
All right. So this report covers the month of November, and check reconciliation is complete through the end of the month. Our accounts are in balance with our bank statements, and I did want to note one unusual item. We had a voided check. We had issued one to a lake association, and they either didn't get it or didn't cash it, but we had to void that and reissue. So that shows up as a note on the financial record there. With respect to the budget, we've had a few meetings with committees, and a few folks have been asking questions about the budget process. We've also been pulling together budget information from various sources. We got our annual letter from Pike Industries saying that they're going to be going up 5% on materials. We are expecting those from several vendors. Inflation is still stubbornly high, and we're seeing it in what we're paying for materials and services and labor costs. Moving on to investments, there is no new activity there. This is the first month in quite a few that I haven't had a report on some shuffling between our checking accounts and our CDs and investments, but everything's pretty well squared away for the next few months. The audit is proceeding well. They're working independently on their draft statements and documents. Teresa is focusing on the capital balances, and that's in conjunction with the CIP work that we're doing, and that we'll also be talking about later on in the meeting. Comments, the report, as I noted, is for the month of November. Revenues and expenses should be about 42%. Our checking account balance is still relatively low, compared to last year. But again, that is because we put more money into those CDs to make some interest on them. And we're tracking that carefully. We look at the account balances basically daily. Real estate payments are slightly down for the month, but they remain up for the year to date. And transfer station fees are also up for the year, which we've seen, but down a little bit for the month of November. We think the weather in November being a little bit usually cold and windy may have decreased that a little bit. Motor vehicle revenues are down for the month, and that's a bit of a change. We normally have seen them higher than same month last year. So this is the first time in several that we've seen a drop, but we're still doing quite well. We'll keep an eye on it. There's nothing to be done, but it is something to watch because that's one of our major revenue streams for pavement and road work. And total revenues or total receipts are down slightly for the month, but up slightly for the year to date. And that's possibly related to state reimbursements coming in at different times. And then in general, revenues and expenses look on track and within bounds for the month of November. And that's my treasurer's report.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Next, we have cemetery sexton.
Hello.
Hello, Karen.
I'll just be real brief. We've pretty much the cemeteries are closed, as I'm sure you can all imagine. We've got the gates were put up the other day. I went up this morning or today and this afternoon and put wreaths out to honor everybody as well too. So that's taken care of. This year we had 8 total burials, which is it's a little down, but that's a good thing. It's nice to have people on this side. The majority of them were, as people can probably well expect, they were cremains. That seems to be the pretty much the way things are going now. We had burials in Kents Hill Cemetery. We had burials in Readfield Corner Cemetery. We had burials in East Readfield Cemetery. So we pretty much took care of all the different cemeteries in terms of burials. The work that was done this summer by the maintenance crew, they did a fantastic job keeping the place clean. A lot of it, obviously with the grass this year with the drought, it didn't grow as much as it normally does, which really was a good thing from that perspective. Because I used to mow the cemeteries, I know. It's a pain in the butt. But they look good. So what we focused on last year for a lot of our efforts, we did 2 different things in terms of restorations in the cemeteries. We did some stone repair and some restoration work, and that was mostly focused in Readfield Corner Cemetery. And we also did some cleaning. I say we, a company that we hired, as well as the restoration work, another company that did that as well too. So we did some extensive cleanings of stones in East Readfield, and I think Eric might have passed out in your packet, there might be a picture of some of the ones that were done. I mean, they had multi-pages, but I figured I'd take a representative sample.
Yeah, we got 6 different grave sites.
Yeah, 6 different ones that
They're
were,
fantastic.
yeah, they did,
Oh, I
they
thought
did
they were
it.
AI images, not gonna lie.
Oh, no, yeah,
I
AI.
thought these were quotes on what it would look like.
No, that's what they did. That's what they came out. So it's fantastic. I'll bug you guys next year when the snow melts and everything about going on a tour, cemetery tour, and we can take a look at some of those stones. One in particular that they cleaned was actually the stone was carved by this gentleman who's long since dead, Henry Pryor Miller, and he's done quite a few, not just monuments in our area, but he also did town monuments as well too. For instance, the Union soldier in Winthrop that's right near the police department, that large statue that's there, he carved that. He and his company carved that. So at any rate, I just wanted to bring attention to that one because it's beautiful the way it came out. Now, in terms of sales too, get a little revenue as well. We had 7 graves that were sold. East Readfield and Readfield Corner were the 2 that people bought graves in. And next year we want to continue with doing obviously more stone repair. It's just like when you have a house and you got to paint it every few years, you fix the stones and something happens and they need a little more work. So we'll continue on with that. And also want to continue on with more of this restoration and cleaning work that this company has done for us. So that's it, pretty much it in a nutshell, what took place. Any questions? Anything?
Do you have a lot of tree work planned for next year, or are we in better shape?
We're in
now?
better shape, but we've got some tree work planned. Nothing major right now. Put it that way. over,
That's great.
over all the years of everybody and other sextons and people paying attention to the trees. We've got them in pretty good shape now.
Is it Case Cemetery that's on Route 17, almost into Manchester?
Yes.
It seemed like that had a lot more grass that stayed on the hillside this year, even with the drought.
Well, something grew.
Okay.
It's green.
It was green. It
Yes.
wasn't dirt and sliding off.
It wasn't
So-
that,
Tried the moss.
something happened with, the moss, the salinity changed on the ground there. But what came up looks kind of like almost like a variety of crabgrass, but it's green and it looks so much better.
Yeah, it did. It
Yeah.
looked great.
So, okay, thank you.
Good
Thank you,
job.
Karen. Animal Control Officer report, Lee. I wasn't gonna say that.
I'm the animal.
That's what he said it.
Gotta watch out for you select board people.
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing real major happening on the animal control front. Since I've been doing it, I've had one dog bite, which was minor, and then cats decide not to stay at home and leave. And we've got Harry Houdini, the calf on the South Road, who finds his way out every once in a while. That's pretty much it.
That's great.
Thanks, Lee. I'm
You're
sure
very
you're glad it's
welcome.
quiet. Next, we have boards, committees, commissions, and departments. Anyone from any of the boards wish to address the board tonight? Okay. We want to thank the Age Friendly Committee, Cemetery Committee, and the Conservation Commission for their minutes submitted recently. Next, we have public communication. Members of the public may address the select board. Anybody wish to talk?
If they're here for something we're going to talk about on the agenda, they can wait till then.
Yeah.
And talk then.
That's perfectly fine. People want to wait. Okay. Old business, 26035. Consider the adoption of the Readfield Open Space Plan. Bruce, would you like to tee this up again this evening, or?
I made my presentation last week and simply ended with asking you to adopt it. You did not at that time because you wanted a full board to consider it. And respectfully, I'm here to listen tonight and perhaps answer some questions and illuminate perhaps any questions that exist.
Thank you. Does anybody on the board have any comments about the open space plan they'd like to discuss?
Well, I do. I read it and I know if they want it adopted as policy. And when we talk policies, does that mean that we're supposed to follow it to a T? I did go to one of the hearings and a lot of the concern in the hearings was extra control on private land and buying more land. And we were assured that that wasn't part of the deal, but as I read this, that's essentially what it is. It's building a war chest with your tax dollars to create easements and buy land to the tune of 20% more than we currently have in conservation right now. In light of the lack of revenue sharing and the county tax going up, for one, I don't think taking 20% more land out of the tax base would be a real wise idea. And then there's the part about, urging the board and the planning board to make harsher restrictions on lakefront property. And I mean, is that saying that our planning board is incompetent? I mean, I don't know how we adopt something as a policy that contradicts what we're already doing. And this is like super radical. I mean, I felt like I was reading the mission statement from the Sierra Club, honestly. So that's my 2 cents. I don't think this should ever be policy.
Catherine?
Well, I was going to say that I wasn't here for the presentation. I'm sorry, Bruce. And as I read through it, I think it's a really well thought out plan. It's really nicely designed and presented. I don't agree with all of the things in there personally. I'm looking at it as policy and suggestion, not as something that we're gonna follow verbatim. Kind of different from the comprehensive plan, which we put out to the public and it was adopted, and it's something that we're supposed to follow if we can. And I guess I'm thinking that's kind of what this is too. We'll follow it to the extent we can.
Or choose to.
Or choose to, right, or can afford to. I noticed in the funding section towards the end, it was suggested that, I don't know, there were 4 or 5 different suggestions of ways things could be
6.
funded, through a bond issue or through direct taxation, through grants, through federal funding. So not all coming from taxes. And I think a lot of the properties that are still in conservation pay taxes. Is that correct? Someone from the committee?
Yes.
Yes. So just becoming conserved land doesn't mean that the town loses tax money.
But at a discounted rate.
Some of it's
The land-
discounted.
Lands are all taxed, that we open space or tree growth and open space.
And honestly, that's what I expected to see more about, was educational about what happens, or trying to recruit people to put their land into open space. And there was like one sentence in the whole thing about the open space tax program. And I didn't see any more about it.
Well, there were several comments about trying to educate the public more, and the select board holding a yearly meeting to educate the public.
An education night.
That's a great idea, but we typically get virtually no one to show up. So I think there might be other ways to do that than holding an actual meeting. I kind of agree with some of what you were saying, Dave. There's a state plan, I think you mentioned, that was the 30% conservation, a
30.
climate thing. And I think that's pretty radical, and I think it's fairly political. The politics and that are changing currently. I think it will always change, but I think you also mentioned that in the plan, that things change, the maps change. So I guess that's all I have to say.
Rob, did you have something to say online? I saw you kind of come off there. I didn't know if you were going to try and speak.
Well, I don't have anything very specific. To me, the report is not really a policy as such. It's more a set of, basically, we're kind of defining open space, showing people where to get data relevant to open space. And then we've put forward some options for the future. So nothing's mandated by this. It just kind of lays out potential scenarios and leaves it up to other town committees, the select board, maybe the planning board, other groups going forward to do what they can to help preserve open space in appropriate ways. I would say, as far as the state goal of 30%, that doesn't mean we need a Readfield goal of 30%. Readfield is only one small piece of the state. And we don't really have great numbers in terms of how much is actually preserved in Readfield. A lot of what we came up with relies on tax maps, things like that, that aren't very accurate anyway. So, I don't think that's meant as a figure for Readfield. If you look at the original open space plan, there were a lot of recommendations. And we've actually, I think, met quite a few of those recommendations, but they're just based on what people in Readfield were willing and able to accomplish in various ways, whether it's building trails, the Kennebec Land Trust accepting land in conservation status. So it's, I guess it's not meant to, as a specific proposal. It's things to be considered. And so going forward, it's up to the select board to decide what, if any, things it wants to do now, or the planning board to decide. And ultimately the citizens to decide. I guess that's what I would say.
It was presented to us that
Thanks,
we
Rob.
wanted to make it policy. So that's where I'm at with it.
Eric, can you describe for us what policy would actually entail in terms of adherence to what's written?
Sure. So, I mean, first of all, I mean, policy is dictated by the select board. What you had done effectively is ask a committee, and it's actually a committee of committees, representatives from various different groups and members of the public, and public hearings and all that. You've asked them to come back with suggestions. And so this reflects the work of that group. And the board has the option to, with any policy, take as little or as much as you like. It is different. The idea of referencing the comp plan is I think helpful, because it does give a bit of a different context. It's not an ordinance, which is binding. It's not like the comprehensive plan that was approved by voters. This is just guidance, really. And it's up to the board to take it or leave it. I think it does reflect some sentiment in the community, not universally held, obviously. But it's just like any other document you have, like we're talking about a few different policies later on. We have the emergency operations plan. That's a policy. We have the, what else do we have tonight? The policy on the discretionary assistance fund. And really it's there just to be a backdrop. And I think the intent is that those type of things are considered in making decisions, in taking votes, in spending money, in developing the budget and all of that. So I guess that's how I would frame it, is say that it's probably the lightest version of guiding document that's out there. And the board has the ability to do what you want. I mean, policy, if you ignore a policy completely, you're fine. If you go ahead and adhere to every single principle, you're fine too. It really does just give you something to think about, and you maintain the discretion. So that's how I would explain it.
Thank you.
This is Sean. Thank you, Eric. So for me, when I look at this, and I really think back to when we started having conversations about the ball fields and what that would entail. And every time at the beginning of those conversations, there was a lot of pushback because it didn't align with the open space plan at the time. And I'm grateful this has a lot more collaboration with some of the recreation opportunities and stuff this time around. It has mentioned some further collaboration with other entities, which I would appreciate. One of the things I think that we need to consider is aligning this with the CIP as well, because this could be a policy that relates to funding in a much different scale, in my opinion, than other ones. And I think that the volume and or maybe the discussions that could come from it, I don't think should be decided just by a board. I think it should be something that's very heavily considered by the public each and every time.
Well, and we already have that funded because we have money in.
We have some money in there right now, yeah.
But wouldn't, if somebody was going to, if we were gonna purchase something, or if there was gonna be more Readfield open space, wouldn't that go to a vote to the citizens anyway?
It should.
It should, but this, the way I read it, it wouldn't have to on this policy.
That it wouldn't have to?
Yeah, it could be decided by the board.
Well, the board can only spend money that's already been approved by the voters. So
Right.
we can spend, that's the wrong way. We can authorize spending for the town for anything that fits in the open space definition with the money that's in the fund currently. We can't go beyond that money and spend anything without asking town meeting for that.
Right, but I don't think we should, current board, just as a scenario, right? Something comes up tomorrow. I don't think the five of us should be the ones that make a decision on $116,000 tomorrow.
Well, a better question is who decides where the open space is?
Well, Yeah, that would be a big conversation too, like individual portions, I think, right?
This document, as I read it, was recommending that a fund be created and funded by a variety of sources of revenue, at which point it would be targeted to open space. So that, by your definition, would fit the board, meaning like if there was $1 million in the open space fund, would that decision be made by 6 people, or would that decision be made by the town?
Well, the select board's 5 people and that's
Okay.
right. So it would
Technically 3, because you only need 3.
legally, the select board can make that decision and make those purchases.
Sorry, these are really good comments, but do you mind going to the mic and saying it just because nobody online can hear you from
Yes.
there? I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. I was going to say I can't hear, so have people use
Sorry.
the mic.
That's okay. Can you hear me now? So I read this document that was provided to me, and what I understood from it is one of the recommendations would be to create a fund that could be funded. I think, Catherine, you mentioned some of the ways it could be funded, at which point this select board would have the ability to make a decision about purchasing property within this town and creating that into open space, because that fund would be created for that purpose. And I think you verified that 3 out of 5 of you could make a decision to spend any amount of money that was already allocated toward a specific purpose.
That's correct.
That's correct.
And
way this is written.
as a property owner and as a citizen, that seems like something that I would not be for. I feel like if the town is gonna spend money on, that's been appropriated from some other department on a large chunk of property within this community, that's something that should come to the community at large.
It wouldn't be, is it okay if I respond?
Yes, of course, yeah.
It wouldn't be appropriated from some other department. It would only be the money that's in that fund. And that fund only, first of all, that fund already exists.
Yeah.
So
And it
we
has-
wouldn't be creating an additional fund. That's not what's being suggested in the plan, but there is a fund there.
So there's already an open space.
Yes,
Account or
and the money
fund.
that's in that has been approved by town meeting votes in the past 5 years, I will say. We haven't put any in the last 2 years, I believe.
So where's the money coming from to go in that fund? Is it a piece of our taxes? Is it,
Yes.
Yes.
okay, so a portion
It's
of
how,
taxes.
it's how town meeting appropriates it. So
Okay.
it might be that there was an article written that we want to accept a grant from XYZ
That
in
goes
the
into
amount
that
of
fund.
something to put in the open space fund. Do the voters approve that? Or it could be, do we want to raise and appropriate from taxes amount Y?
Okay,
And the understanding then is, and I think we've put this in the explanation on the town meeting warrant in the newspaper thing that we send out, that means that it's there available to use for the purpose of open space. And the things we've talked about in the past have been like helping to purchase something. If a property comes up and they need a 5% match from the town. We haven't talked about spending 100% of something to buy. You know, a piece of property comes up for $50,000, we're gonna buy it and own it. That's not the intent that we've ever spoken about, am I correct?
But you can't.
No, yeah.
But
We
You
could,
can.
yes.
It's not to say a different board wouldn't,
right.
or spend all
So-
116,000 that we've got in there. It's-
Speaking of that, like how are we identifying open space?
That's what's in the whole plan.
Yeah. So, well, no, I know how we're describing it. I'm saying, how are we like going out and searching for this? Are we looking for things that are already for sale? Or is someone from the town, like as a landowner, are you going to be approached by a landowner that has land that wants to be put into open space? Like, how's that part of the process?
That's something
working?
maybe Howard or Bruce or someone could answer at the podium.
This is a great discussion. We sort of started this whole process with the same discussion, and the committee, the working group said, we understand our charge is not to tell people what to do with the open space fund, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
And we didn't do that. We basically left that, I don't know, half a page from the 2006 plan into this plan without really tinkering with what to do with the open space money that's already in there. That's up to you folks. That's that's what you need to do. All we did was to really continue on to say an open space fund is a good thing. And there may be some opportunities to add to it in the future, which we could do. So in that respect, we've done our job, I hope, and it's now up to the select board and the townspeople to decide what, if anything, they want to do with that money. With your question about identifying open space, so we spent a lot of time trying to define open space because there seemed to be some misunderstanding about that. And there's town open space, town-owned open space, the state-owned open space, the school-owned open space, but most open space is privately owned. And that's a wonderful thing for the town of Readfield. We love our open woods and fields, and the reason we have so much open woods and fields is because of private owners. And there's nothing in the plan that says we need to change that. There may be opportunities that arise for development of open space into affordable housing or commercial development. That's progress. Well, that happens too. That happens too. But there's also maybe opportunity to save particular important pieces from development of solar panels or anything else, and to keep it in farms and to keep it in forests. What's the well, if the town voted to adopt an ordinance that restricted its use, yes. We have not, this document does not do that. This document does not do that. But there's quite a bit on page 13 of the plan. I was just looking, Dave, about open space tax categories and how to take advantage of that. And in a couple of places, we encourage the town to educate the public more about that, so that those people that have land that's undeveloped don't pay the development costs. So,
Thanks, Howard. Yeah. Bruce, did you have something you want to say? I thought you were about to get up. No?
I mean, I'm certainly happy to address any questions, and I did chair that committee, and I was a member of the public on the committee. I did talk to this board, select board quarterly, and gave a report. So hopefully that was informative. I do remember a year ago, we actually had a conversation here, which was followed by a memorandum that it was agreed for the time being that the budget committee and the select board jointly discussed capital planning, and that we needed to talk about what open space was and to define it and to set some aspirations in regards to it, but it was not our job to take action or give consideration other than referencing the fact that there was an open space fund. So we've not talked about how much and so on and so forth. I think the prime concern that I would have is not missing a reasonable opportunity for the town. And for example, if a conservation easement came up for $16,000 someplace on a corner of a property that abuts some open space or trails or whatever, I'd hate to see that sit and not occur because we waited for a town vote on it. We have had town votes of all the money going into that account. I don't know if more money will be put in there. I think if somebody wants to give us a grant or make donations to that fund, that's great as well. It may grow based on taxpayer and voter decisions to grow the fund, and that's fine. I would probably speak for that, and there would probably be folks that would speak in opposition to that, and that's fine too. I'd hate to see us not make a choice that was a good opportunity for the town. And I believe, and I have confidence actually in the select board, who we also elected, that they're part of this process too. Some of my conservative friends remind me often that this is a republic, not a democracy. We do elect you to make some hard decisions occasionally. And maybe one of your hard decisions is we're scared of making a $100,000 decision and want to talk about it more. But I would, again, hate to miss a smaller opportunity. I'm also open for any questions or clarifications from the board.
Well, I think one of the things that we asked you to do was to revise the plan so that it was more current and to make it accessible to the public. Not meaning that they can find it, but that it was readable and well laid out so that people could understand what was there. And I think you have accomplished that with this goal. We had also said that we didn't want to discuss funding the open space fund by asking the public in town meeting until the plan was revised, so that if people were going to vote on should we put more money into this fund, they would have a document they could look at and see this is what's considered open space. This is how it would be used possibly. And in that vein, you guys have done that. You've given us what we've asked for. And so I think one of the bigger issues we've had, and I don't remember, Eric, the last time we funded open space, was it its own warrant article? Was it part of several things funded together?
It was part of the overall funding for capital projects. So it was aggregated, and we had lengthy discussions about whether or not that was the right thing to do or not. And that's one of those hard decisions that Bruce is talking about that you folks make about whether we want to have 50 articles on the warrant or 40 and how you aggregate things. And I think that there really is a kind of a core issue here about trust in the select board, because you guys are authorized to spend money out of funds that have been established. And this is the open space fund is one of those. Would it be a wise idea to go and buy a piece of property without going to the public? Absolutely not. I'd advise against that. And I think most everybody on the board would balk at it too. So it really comes down to kind of maintaining that,
I think
the direction you have. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly, I think we're saying similar things. This is very different from any other policy I feel that we have in terms of its relation to a pot of funds. We have other policies that have money attached to it, but not something that has a direct and could have a direct, immediate or long-term impact.
Well, this doesn't have a specific thing. I mean, if we're allocating money for roads, people know where the roads are. They've seen all the roads. We've identified a list of this is the roads we're doing in this order kind of thing. And so this is just a little more broad. So it's scarier.
It also hasn't stood alone on the ballot.
Is there more money already allocated to this fund for next year?
No, we haven't had it on the ballot since it was separated out of the capital improvement plan. It was lumped in with originally.
Yeah.
So the 3 times it was on the ballot was lumped in with the capital improvement plan.
Can I make a comment just to add to what I spoke to a little bit earlier?
Sure.
And that is regarding the idea that you might purchase a conservation easement for $20,000-$30,000 perhaps because it's an opportunity that's passing by. I think the board would be wise in those instances to hold a public hearing that's informational, for example, and talk about what the property is, because abutters might want to say something, and people who have perhaps maybe using that property at some point as open space would want to speak to it as well, or other space. So I think process-wise, the open space recommendation that we've made or the policy that we're recommending is not the place to put fiscal constraints. I think that is the board's actions that judge that, the select board. And of course, I actually have confidence in all the committees of the town to do their jobs in proposing from the planning board, which was spoken about a little earlier, to the select board to make very judicious decisions with public input. I think we operate that way as a town, and I trust we will going forward. So I hope you will take the aspirational nature of the document we put forward. And by the way, I hope it won't wait 20 years to be looked at again. I do hope that it'll be updated and looked at on a more frequent basis. We've certainly tried to do a good job at capturing a more current moment in terms of looking at open space. Thanks.
So I think probably what I'm hearing from the public tonight, as well as on other occasions, is that it's a funding issue and people would like to have a direct vote to that. And I don't think any of us particularly disagree with that. I think where we've come to the difficult decision is, do we leave it as part of the capital funding article, or do we separate it out? And I think if it's important enough that we want something to pass, then we should put it out on its own article if we're going to do this, if we're going to spend any money. And like Sean said, if we're going to buy a particular piece of property, we would probably put that out to the voters, whether it was through a public hearing or by holding a special town meeting. If it was a timely thing that had to happen before the next annual town meeting. So I think, you know, as Bruce said, we've been elected and given the trust of the citizens of Readfield to do what's right. And that's right by all people. That doesn't mean that every one of us will agree, because that rarely happens. But we should really consider that if we're going to put more money in. I think pulling that out so that people have an opportunity to say, yes, we want this particular thing. I understand we don't want to have 50 or 70 articles.
Yeah, of course. We have
That was rhetorical.
I know, but sometimes you
But I
go
think
to the voting booth and you see people, they're just marking, and they're not really paying attention, they were reading. And so we don't want to have that happen.
And I really think it's wise of us to make sure when we're talking about the CIP, that there is a specific conversation about, you know, what are maximums? What could, you know, where does this need to?
Right now, that account's 250, correct? The maximum in the open space account, but that could be changed. That's another thing that can be changed.
You can change it tonight if you want.
Right, you could change, right, it can be changed at any time,
Yeah.
so.
But I just want people to know that. That's the stuff I want people to be aware of as well.
Right.
But open space isn't just.
Could you go to the microphone, please,
Yeah.
so we can?
You gotta speak up.
We're gonna make you work for it, bud.
Open space isn't about you guys buying land. It's about having people in the town opening land too.
Yes, both.
Right, so what's
Could
the
be
benefit for that?
Benefit.
Like you
to-
say, like you put your land in tree growth. Is this open land? Do you get a tax break?
Yes.
What?
Yes, it's similar to like the tree growth. You get a tax
Right,
break.
but you guys talk about buying land. I don't understand the open land and buying land. How's that?
Because
How's
that's,
that? I don't
that's
understand
the
the-
potential as well with the open space money is to buy land.
Just to keep
could
it
be-
open space.
It could be used as that. yeah.
Right, so you lose that tax money.
Right.
If you buy the land, you're losing that tax money.
Correct.
If the town buys it outright, yes, but.
So is that ethical?
But
One of the things that we've done and talked about a lot is doing things in tandem with other groups, such as the Kennebec Land Trust. And if the person who's giving it is selling it at a discounted price from what they could sell it for development, because they want it to stay open, whether it has public access or not, that group, such as Kennebec Land Trust, can't always pay the full amount. So they ask for different donors to come forward, like maybe the Nature Conservancy or the town or private donors. And so people put in parts of the total. It doesn't necessarily mean that we get ownership. And most of these parcels still pay taxes. It's just at a reduced rate, like tree growth has a reduced rate. So we're
Right,
not-
but if you're buying land, you're not gonna get that.
Right, but we've never really talked about buying land in the almost 30 years I've been around on various select boards. No select board has had any interest in the town owning land.
Right, does Kennebec Land Trust pay taxes?
Yes.
Yes.
They do,
They
at
do.
minimal.
It's not minimal.
The discounted rate.
It's discounted.
Yeah, well, at minimal. It's.
Depends on your definition.
Right, okay.
I mean,
And-
minimal might
okay,
be
so
80% of the
compared to the
tax
lake.
instead of 100.
How about the buffers that they're putting in on the wetlands on that?
I don't have knowledge of that.
So I'll just say
No.
quickly on those type of things, wetland buffers are typically state set. So the state of Maine dictates that. The town doesn't necessarily have anything really to do with it, other than accepting the plan, which we more or less have to. So the state typically sets things like environmental buffers and that type of stuff.
Well, them are already set anyways, right?
Yeah, generally there's
Pretty
like
much.
100 foot and 250 foot. There's all of that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the open space doesn't increase that.
No, they're independent operators.
Okay.
Yeah. But one thing I wanted to mention too is, there's been questions about the town buying land or what we're looking at. And I just want to say that, I've never heard, Catherine's right, I've never heard a select board member say, really, I want to go after this piece of land or that piece of land. If they mention something, they might say, well, geez, wouldn't it be nice to keep that, farmland open? I do hear people talking about farmland, but I guess what I'm getting at is a lot of times this isn't a committee or the town going and pursuing property. We're not necessarily going out and knocking on doors. And I don't think that's the intent, but oftentimes people come to towns, not just Readfield, but towns, and say, hey, I've got a farm and I'd like to keep it open. And they might talk to us, they might talk to Kennebec Land Trust. So it's not something that the towns are actively pursuing for the most part. And I definitely don't see Readfield doing that. But I think it's something that, again, this plan contemplates, or this policy, because it would be nice if someone wanted to keep farmland open so that, we can have some farmland. But that's just one example.
Okay, now you said you had like 215,000 in the account?
That's the maximum. There's 116, I think, in
116
there now.
right now.
Okay, okay, so you're not gonna buy land with that money, is what you're saying?
Well, no, I think that
What are you gonna do with it?
well,
What do you-
so
That was my question.
the capital improvement plan that we have has a definition that says that things you can do with that money, right? So here's a short list of things. And this is off the top of my head, so don't quote me, but it's things like maybe buying an easement, maybe partnering with Kennebec Land Trust. It could be things like improving recreation space, right? It might be helping to work on the fairgrounds. It might be things like putting in a maple syrup house at the town farm forest so people can go and do a community sap boil. I mean,
So that's all in part of open space?
it could be,
Could
yeah.
be.
It's certainly part of the idea of it, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Anybody else? Any comments, questions? Bruce?
I'll make one last comment because I want to make sure that people understand that I am no longer the chair of the Open Space Committee because it has been dissolved. We had a job we were assigned to do, just like the comprehensive plan folks. It took us a little longer, so we did ask for a 6-month extension. Hopefully we delivered a product that is helpful and of a guidance nature. I also want to make sure that people understand I don't have a shopping list in my pocket for property. That was never my intention at all. And I just hope that we can leverage that fund in a way that makes sense. But my main message was that we had a job to do to define open space and to make some recommendations, and hopefully the board will bear those recommendations in mind, and they're not all financial in nature. In fact, many of them are not.
We say we don't have a shopping list, but we did, within this year, already have a piece of land presented to buy. No?
An easement.
An easement.
Okay.
I'll just note that it's on page 81 in tonight's packet. So if you go online, you can look at it. It's the open space capital plan account. And the bottom line says priority should be given to uses that do not include the outright purchase of property. That's one of the caveats that we put into our spending policy. And that's a select board thing. That has nothing to do with this plan. This plan is what It's not a plan,
Policy.
it's policy. It's the open space plan that will be a policy. Is something we would consider in this, but it tells you specifically what it is. But we specifically stated that it's not the intent of the town to outrightly buy land. It's to help with groups purchasing or for maintenance of existing open space, things like that. So.
What I'd like to say is that I hope that something doesn't come out of this that's going to further detour somebody that wants to develop land, whether it's through ordinances or anything like that, more fees to discourage that type of thing, to keep stuff in open space. I know nothing's written, but I've seen it happen quite a few times since I've been here. I've been here a long time.
Yep.
I'm sure you are all familiar with Coney High School in Augusta. That land was originally donated for a school. And the city of Augusta came in and they changed the rules down the road, years down the road. And now there's a shop and save sitting there. So I think we need to be very careful with this open space, that things could be changed down the road. It's a concern.
Yes.
I was just notified last night of this, but I've been working with Inland Fisheries and Wildlife on private land ownership and that task force that they have, allowing people to, basically what it is a landowner. I'm kind of caught here a little bit. I own a farm now. I'm an avid deer hunter. I'm a real estate agent, and there's fears on both sides of the table. And I think everything has a place as long as it's done correctly. Some of the land that I've owned, Kennebec Land Trust owned a piece of land adjacent to mine, and it took the pressure off my property. As a landowner, we get called every day for permission to hunt on our land. Well, we have 20 family members that hunt on our land, so we're not unnecessarily locking up 500 acres. We own land in Belgrade, Mount Vernon, and Readfield, so we're not land hogs by any means. But to the pressure that's getting put on us private landowners is ridiculous. And then, my comments to Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, everything that came up, we were going down a very, very good road. And then it came, well, how are we going to raise money to do this, that, and everything else to pay for it? And one comment I had is just as a landowner, give me an incentive to keep my land open. And then it gets a little troublesome too, because what people, as us residents, we fear our taxes being raised. But there's not just Readfield taxes that we pay. We pay taxes to the state of Maine too. And the state of Maine is not what it used to be. I just got back from a deer hunting trip in Ohio, and everything is getting locked up into 40-acre parcels. And it's becoming, it depends on what hat I'm wearing. If I'm wearing my Maine guide hat, or if I'm wearing my, the family farm hat, or as a real estate agent where I feel guilty because of a lot of the subdivisions in the state of Maine I helped develop. And what I believe into the core is the outdoor activities and stuff. And now we have state of Maine getting chunked up in 2-acre parcels. And you know what, to a landowner or a farmer, we had a family farm in the city of Hollowell. They owned half of Hollowell, but they couldn't, when I went to do the title search for the law firm that I worked for, they couldn't afford to pay their taxes, so they had to sell it off in pieces. I think if we look at these things with an objective mind and everybody has a common goal to keep it's valuable, guys, to keep some open space. And I've been blessed with being able to purchase the Hewitt Farm in Readfield with my son-in-law, Jake. And Bill Pepper was fortunate enough to sell me a large parcel of land in Belgrade. I've been blessed beyond belief. But, you know, it's hard telling people no, you know, because we got the snowmobile trail that comes through. We're trying to do our best to keep the public and everybody, because guess what happens if we don't have any more? If I didn't have land, I would not buy a hunting license. And that's my passion. I do not want to have to fight tooth and nail and to go on to somebody else's land. I just won't do it. These are important things that we're talking about. And I think the big thing that we're talking about here is not whether or not Readfield is going to buy a piece of land. Personally, if Readfield wants to buy a piece of land and we have the money for it, God bless them. So I don't have to buy it. But there's also good and bads with everything. And so I have different hats that I wear. And depending on, you know, our local farm, I have an idea. So when I'm 57 now, I'll be approaching 60 years old pretty soon. And my fear is that my children and my grandkids won't be able to keep the farm because of taxes. So I have some ideas that I want to implement, and hopefully Readfield will listen to us and us local farmers to help us survive and to do these things. So I think if everybody could keep an open mind, and it's not all bad, you know what I mean? So it's nice to be able to go, Kennebec Land Trust, I used to be able to walk out of my house and not pay taxes on land, and I could literally walk 10 miles to go hike. Well, if a local landowner, like in Ohio, it was all locked up. And it was a privilege to go there and deer hunt, but I kind of felt a little bit guilty too, because the locals couldn't. So that's my piece on it. I think if everybody keeps an open mind, be honest with you as a farmer, because I'm starting to go to no-till farming and help the environment and that type of stuff. And I talk with Warren and his wife a lot about it. And I honestly believe, I read in here a little bit that the town of Readfield is interested in helping the farmers. I don't know what that means, but it's in here. So I think we ought to look at it. Look at the, you know, when everybody sees government, they're all freaked out because all the stuff's going on across the United States, and rightfully so. But you know, if somebody wants to help us keep the family farm, because there ain't much money in it, I can tell you that much, growing the tomato plants and stuff like that. But I know the citizens of Readfield like it an awful lot. So just keep an open mind, everybody. And I don't know, unfortunately, this is the first I've heard about it, and I'm on a couple other task force, so I didn't get to put a lot of time into it. I go back a long way with Howard Lake. We used to be in the registries and be registry rats doing title searches, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, I can tell you that much. And you don't have to come up with charges of money to buy land either. I could show you a way very easily. We could acquire, I've acquired over 1,000 acres myself, and I never went to a bank. I went to the landowner, and there was tax incentives for everybody, and it benefited everybody. So just, I guess the long and the short of it is, I'm getting long-winded here, just kind of keep an open mind to this thing, because this could be a very, very good thing for everybody if we do it right.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Jaron?
So I think I would say that the work group did what the previous board asked them to do. I was not on that board. But I think they accomplished the goals that were set for them. I do really appreciate the comments from everyone who came tonight. I do really wish they had come to the public hearing, because any comments made at the public hearing could have changed the plan. And the comments made tonight are not going to make any changes to the plan. So with those two things said, I would like to make a motion to adopt the Readfield Open Space Plan 2025 as policy.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
With caveats.
I think when you say caveats, I think it's all the things we've discussed in terms of making sure we're following CIP that's going to the voters. And that'll be down to the board when it comes to us, if something comes to us.
Shouldn't we put this plan on the ballot for the town to accept, for the voters to accept?
It's a policy. It's not a, unless you want to make it an ordinance.
It's a policy that has money attached to it already.
This doesn't really have money attached to it. The funding is separate. This is the guidance for the money.
I'd take that as the money is attached to it. I mean, with a comprehensive plan or whatever, we put that on the ballot and the voters approved it or didn't.
I think we had to do that,
Yeah,
right?
that's
That's part of a comprehensive plan by state law.
That is, and again, policy, it'd be very unusual for a board to put policy out to town meeting vote, because that really means it's not policy anymore. That turns it basically into something equivalent to an ordinance. So I mean, that's just a functional piece. You don't want to necessarily give away authority. And in some cases you can't. For example, with the road traffic and roads ordinance, state law says that the select board writes that, and you can't put it out to the voters. It's just something that the state has said the board does that. So policy like this, it wouldn't really be the right approach to put it to the voters unless it was an ordinance. And I don't think this should be an ordinance. I think the select board should maintain the discretion and be able to fill, as they see fit politically and otherwise, financially, the will of the voters.
Would it depend how you worded the
through
question?
that mechanism, yeah.
Like as if you worded it, does the town wish to adopt this open space as policy with attached funds? Would it depend on the wording of the question?
I
think that would muddy the waters quite a bit. I think it's
this-
probably, but
This
that's just
plan
my
doesn't
opinion.
have
Yeah.
attached monies. There's no money in this plan, correct?
Well,
By the authors?
it's kind of directly related to the open space fund. So therefore, if you're going to put open space money on the ballot, this should coincide with it, no?
I think what we want to do is with this plan is make sure we identify on the CIP what we believe, not just those limits, but how that, if there
How it
is,
can be used.
how that, if there is, I'm trying to work this wordsmith this right now, it's not working, but
I know what
if
you're
there
saying,
is something that comes up that there's a level that needs to either be brought to public hearing, which should be all of them, and or a public vote.
You
separate,
could say the
right?
intention of the current board is in the
Yes,
CIP policy.
right,
And of course, that changes every year.
Right.
Right, because your board changed. Well, the board has the opportunity to be elected to be different people every year. I mean, I think you can tell from the discussions we've had, we're all in pretty much agreement that we're gonna separate this out if we put anything out for money again.
Mhm.
We've been talking about that for a couple of years and we've all, I mean, since you've been on the board too, and Rebecca, you're new, so this is no history for you, but that's been our discussion level.
yeah.
And taking it very seriously that we want the actual spending decisions to have input from the public. Even though it's already been approved.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 4 against? Okay, it passes. Thank you, everybody. Now, if you all want to stay for the next hour and 5 minutes of our meeting, you're welcome to, but you may all
But if you
also,
leave, we won't.
if you leave, we will not be offended.
I want to thank the board for its action.
Well, the shuffle's happening. I'm gonna use the restroom.
Okay. Dave, I will say to you, I will do what I just said. I will vote for making it separate, for putting it to the voters.
And
Yeah.
I really, I get where you're coming from.
The only reason that I voted against it is essentially what you said. It could be that way with this board, but next year or the year after, it could be totally different and 3 people can vote the money. So that's the only reason I voted against what we were talking about.
But whether we adopt this plan or not, that would still be the case with the money. We just wouldn't have this revised plan with more information to guide us because we'd still be dealing with the 2006 plan.
That's a comfier seat, Donnie.
And it's not to say that,
But that's
not
the
to say
antique and
it's like the comp
historic.
plan or anything else.
Sorry.
Not to say that, the next board can't take the comp plan and that plan and follow it right to a T.
That's absolutely true.
So.
Right. So that's when you got to pay attention to who you're electing.
Mhm.
Or to who you try to persuade to run to be elected.
Right.
And there's a lot of apathy about getting people to want to be on the select board.
All right, 26-037. Consider a second reading of the revisions to the Readfield Alternative Heating Assistance Fund.
Can you tell me what page this is on?
No,
I gotta get back
In the
in
packet.
first.
Just gotta find it.
Second here.
47.
Looks like it's about a third of the way down.
I'm on 44, 5, 6, 7.
It's
47.
after
There it
the
is.
open
Yes.
space stuff.
We got 120 more pages to go.
Yeah,
No, we don't.
I'm not the timekeeper, but we just spent 50 minutes on a 5-minute section.
Not surprised.
That's okay.
It was good discussion.
It was a great discussion by the public.
Okay, Eric, take it away. I'm sure we know what you've got for your changes, right?
Yeah, so the board asked that I look at clarifying some of the language and putting in some reference information. And so I did that to specify the source of any information on fuel costs. And that's established. It's been for the last 20 years plus probably. The state of Maine has kind of centralized information. So I suggested that that's a good resource. But I also left the door open so that if we find something that we trust more or want to use a different metric, we can. But the idea being that we try to equalize these things. And rather than put in the full schedule of BTUs and all of that, I just referenced the fact that we should look at that and then highlighted that certain fuel types are more efficient. If we have the opportunity and someone has a electric baseboard and they've got a wood stove, we should be buying them wood, right? And that's what makes sense. So this policy does try to respond to that.
Trying to burn these.
But anyway, I believe I responded to the requests of the board, and I think this policy is pretty well set. You might want to make a few more changes, but I believe it's an improvement over what existed previously, gives better direction to me as the administrator of the general assistance program, and this is a supplement to that. And I think this is going to help our residents by getting, because there are certain instances where it's hard to get things like maybe kitchen supplies or maybe some people need extra food. I mean, the food banks can do a certain amount, but they only can give so much. Sometimes people aren't eligible for food assistance yet, and we had that gap that we saw last month. But regardless, there's always these weird situations that come up, and it's nice to be able to say, hey, people donated this money. They want it to help Readfield residents, and I wanted some clear direction on how to do that in a way that was equitable and efficient. And I think this policy does that. So,
yeah, I was grateful for your changes, Eric, and entertain them. Oh, Catherine.
I think all the additions and changes and deletions are wonderful. It's much more readable. I love that you've separated it out instead of making it so specific. You have references. It's just perfect. And I was actually shocked to see that 17 years ago, I helped make this policy. I read that and I went, oh my. I would make a motion to approve the policy guidelines for the distribution of resources from the discretionary assistance fund as presented.
Second. I have motion a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Eric, for those edits.
My pleasure. Here's a hard copy for you to sign.
Can it be in blue?
That's fine. I can do it in pink if you want.
We can do this, Sean.
Oh, I think so.
Power through.
Yeah, I don't. So, all right, Eric, 26041, discuss municipal capital investment planning and the upcoming joint CIP meeting next Wednesday. That was a caveat for you all, next Wednesday, reminder.
Next Wednesday. So basically, we have the capital investment plan is a multi-part plan. Again, it's just policy guidance, but I included in the packet the actual language. Just in the event that you folks wanted to make any changes to it, usually we don't, but I think that it's worth talking about at least I think tonight, starting the conversation around the open space account, but to just put it in context for the public and a little bit for Rebecca, although she's been through this before, is that we have our reserve accounts organized into two different categories. One is special revenue, the other is capital. Special revenue accounts are a bit more flexible. Capital reserve accounts are much more firm in their direction. It's for things that are really solidly infrastructure related for the most part. The special revenue are for accounts for things that have a little bit more fluidity to them. And we can go through the table of contents if we want to, but I don't think it's necessary. The plan itself, I think, is a great improvement over where we were 3 years ago. And actually, this got adopted last year fully. So this is something fairly new for us, but it gets to a lot of those questions that we heard tonight about, well, what are you doing with this money? Because we got an open space plan that might have 100,000 in it, but we've got a road reserve that's probably got 500. We've got a fire department reserve that can have anywhere from 50 to 250 to 400, depending on what we're saving for. So we have a lot of different pots of money that the select board are responsible for managing. And this policy really describes how to spend that money and how not to spend it, and sets parameters not just on the types of things that can be used for, but also, as Dave mentioned, thresholds. How much is too much, how much is too little. And there's a lot that goes into discussion around those things. Some items, if you don't have the right money in there, it's very high risk. Fire department, we don't ever want to not have money for fixing an engine in a fire truck. And right now we're in good stead. We have enough money to do that. But if we have a fire truck that gets wrecked, then we're going to have to go get a bond. So it's kind of those type of discussions and balancing that happens. That's in large part done with the budget committee, and the select board has a very big role as well. So what I had done primarily, and I included an extra piece in the select board packet, is just the schedule of proposed expenses for FY27. I don't, if you want to, we can go through every one or go through line by line, but basically this is a starting point for the discussion that we're going to have next Wednesday. And what I try to do was put in things as placeholders. I did update the cost of replacement of a lot of these pieces of infrastructure. We've seen, as you know, since COVID, major changes. We have not always seen major changes to this plan. And so I did have to increase some things by 20, 30, 50, some cases 100%, because you can't build anything for twice what you used to pay for it 5 years ago. You just can't. So that's been reflected in here in kind of gross terms. And I did put in some placeholders for open space and recreation, just $5,000 each. Again, that's just for argument's sake. I'm not necessarily advocating for it. I just thought it'd be good to show something. And one of the questions I had, and this I think can lead into this larger policy discussion you folks will have, is we don't have necessarily, or we never have put money into specific recreation reserve. We have one, but all that really is the money that was put in there over the years by the rec board and from rec sports. But we don't necessarily have money for specific recreation improvements, which oftentimes they're not as big enough to need a bond, but they're not small enough to put into the operating budget, right?
Right.
So I wanted to think about that, because in a couple of years, we want to be doing work at the town beach and fixing that up and, having some kind of a pavilion or something. Because people love that place and it needs some attention. But anyway, the idea is that we can flag a few things through the course of this and then have more in-depth discussion at the meeting on Wednesday, or anything you want tonight. But I'll just stop there and ask if you have questions. I'm happy to answer them. And otherwise, I think that you want to look on, I guess, towards the end of the policy and maybe start a discussion around the open space, just because that could take a lot of time next Wednesday. And I'd like to get some work on it.
So this is Sean. There are two pieces that I had flagged to mention tonight. One obviously was open space. I really want to, in that sort of parameters piece, I would really like it if we talked about having a placeholder right in there for public hearing and or vote. And that, I just think that just has to be something, like, there should automatically be a trigger for the public hearing if there's something that the money is going to be used for easement and or purchase, and then a vote. And I think it's okay if we put that through. The other one I have on there.
Excuse me, just to clarify, you're talking about on that 1-page description for open space.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. The other one I was going to ask about, Eric, and was the snowmobile trail maintenance. Is the only one of those volunteer pass-throughs that's listed as a 1-pager here, because it's based on the revenue we get from the state for the snowmobile registration fees.
Yeah.
And I know recently, as part of that adoption of the policy where we're doing that money, we had people do the signatures to get on the ballot for next year. And I'm just wondering, based on how this was looking in the CIP, if moving forward, we mark something to waive that for that club, as it's not really a tax dollar. It's a pass-through. And then sort of, although they happily got the signatures they needed to for this next ballot, but I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to change that going forward.
The money we get in return is like 100-fold.
Yeah, they put a lot of hours in.
Yeah.
The snowmobile club,
especially that guy over there.
He's there every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that would be a good, because we were talking the other day, weren't we, Donnie, that it was something that was put in place almost 50 years ago. Yeah. And it's not changed since. The club has never asked for more since it was established. It's just asked for that pass through. So I think that's a pretty fair thing.
If I had a suggestion, we take the easy one first, but that's up to you.
Yeah, let's take the easy one first. Anybody opposed to us?
The snowmobile thing?
Yeah.
Fine.
You want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to change
to ask Eric to change that.
To ask Eric to change the snowmobile trail maintenance to be an automatic pass through without need for further signature petitioning for the annual ballot. Second. Angela, could you get that? Oh, yeah.
We'll confer.
You know what he's saying, just write it out.
That's what the tape's for.
I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Second thing, do I need to make a motion?
No, let's just ask Eric to draft it so that we have it for the meeting on the 17th, 18th, whatever.
Yeah, and send it out to the folks at the
snowmobile thing?
No. I'll tell them. Donnie will tell them for us.
Oh, geez, you put me on the hook for that, huh?
Yeah. No, for the open space, like that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah. In the interest of time, let's not wordsmith it tonight. Let's let Eric figure that out. You've heard the discussion.
I have.
We want
Want to
to
make a motion to suggest it and go from there? And then
I don't think
if we just ask him to do it, he'll do it, right?
Yeah.
I'll do it. It's
Okay.
done, Dave.
We don't need a motion.
Not for that one. We're good.
All right.
Any other pieces of discussion from other folks on this?
In looking at the CIP worksheet, I'm over there now. I'm just, Eric, are we really looking at the numbers that you have out for the next 4 years? Going from 420 to 540 to 680, 630, 480?
Yeah, so that's if everything falls exactly where we have it scheduled, I would say that those numbers are correct. The one thing that you want to keep in mind is that we never really look more than 1 or 2 years out. And also the big bump that you're seeing next year or in FY 28, the 600,
Yep.
whatever, that's in large part due to those recreation improvements at the beach. Something around 200,000 for amenity improvements, because
Yep.
Building a concrete pad costs 20 grand these days.
It's more than that.
Okay, yeah, that's in
$200
fiscal
a yard.
29, but okay.
Yeah, 29. But so those things do add up. And
Well, just thinking
yeah.
we might want to, in the discussion we have, because it's broader with the whole committee, I would want to look, I will be making the suggestion that we look at taking 28 through 31 suggested and maybe averaging those.
Smoothing it out. Yeah, no, I was
So
going to make
that
the
we
same
have
suggestion. Yeah.
575 each year instead of, 680 1 year.
Yeah.
That's a huge bump. And then we're going to drop down the next year. I just,
470. Yeah.
yeah.
And those are current dollar values. I mean, in 5 years,
Right.
Lord knows what some of this stuff.
Oh, because we'll all be making double what we're making now.
I'll keep that in mind when we talk about the select board, the town
Right.
manager contract.
Yeah. You'll have the tape right on hand. Remember this?
And the sarcasm was duly noted.
All right. Yeah. Great.
Nope, that looks great. Look forward to the discussion.
All right.
And you'll send out any adjustments to both boards prior to that meeting next week?
Yeah, so part of my work later this week is to finish up and pack all this stuff together and finalize things. And then it should be Friday. Friday we'll have a pretty good rough cut. I might have some fine tuning Monday, but you can expect that the select board and the budget committee will both get a packet for discussion that's based on the work that's here. I won't include the full CIP,
Bless you.
but I will include those 2 sections that that you've talked about, and I'll ask if anybody has anything else they'd like to bring. We can talk about any specific language, right? But we won't bring the whole document because that's just unnecessary at this point. So.
Do you have a suggested length of time for that meeting? Are we looking at 60, 90, or 120?
I would budget 120, just because if
That's
you do
fine.
better, that's great. But I tend to think
Expect
anything
the worst, and then it's like it's cool. If
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
20 minutes
It's a
early.
gift.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? We good on the CIP plan for next Wednesday? Or it's a hoot, Rebecca. It's a hoot of a meeting. Yeah.
Is this going a little differently maybe than school board?
Yes, much different.
I'm not making any judgments. I just wanted to touch bases.
Okay, item 26042, consider a draft winter roads maintenance contract. Thank you, Dave, for your assist with this.
And what does the teal represent?
Teal represents things that I wanted to highlight or that I thought were substantive changes relative to prior years. So
I think
basically,
even
yeah.
Stevie D would have been able to check the teal.
Sorry, what?
Well, it's a good thing
I'm
Steve's
just
not with
guessing.
us.
Steve might have been able to read the teal.
You can call it shading if you want, but yeah. But anyway, thanks are due to Dave for kind of helping to shepherd this. He did a lot of work in getting a good group of contractors together and interested parties. And I've actually had a few more call and say, hey, what's going on with this? I want to be involved. So the word got out there, which is great. And so Dave did a lot of work on that. And we also had a pretty good start with the last contract. A lot of this is, the structure is very similar. I did modify it and bring it from being like a bid type language to an RFP language. And we've done that over the past several years with all of our proposals and all of our large requests, basically changing the dynamic and the language to say, we're looking to figure this out in partnership with somebody, not just say, well, you give us a price and we give you a contract and that's the end of it. So this is much more in line with our current bidding and proposal type language. And one thing I wanted to highlight was right off, we had this kind of narrative, and this is, I want to get some feedback from the board on that first paragraph and the last sentence in particular, because I think that one thing that I heard from the board and I've heard from the public and I've heard from the contractors is that we want to have safe conditions. We don't need to have perfect roads, but we want to find things that bring value to the taxpayers. And I think that that's a universal truth. But I think that we never said that quite that plainly in our old language. And there's a few places in this document where we say things plainly where we hadn't before. And I think that might be a help. But before I go on, I just wanted to ask any thoughts on that first piece in that last sentence.
I liked it.
I'm fine with that. And so would an example of that be where you have included, like the rush hour times versus the overnight hours? Is that a new thing?
Well, so that's actually, some of that is old language, but what we did is we took away the stuff that said you have to be within half an hour of when 2 inches of snow accumulates, and you have to clear 3 feet from the center line. That type of stuff got knocked out because well, who the hell's going to enforce it, first of all?
I'll be out there with a tape measure on the truck.
And it's one of those things about policy. You don't, and this is a contract, but with anything, you don't want to write something you can't enforce, and you don't want to make things unduly complicated, because oftentimes that just makes them more expensive and creates conflict and friction and all that. So that's really a trend throughout this, right? I did include, if you're going on to the next page, standard instructions to proposers. This was modified in a few ways. We did, again, service and price. I wanted the bidders, the proposers to know, this is what we're looking for. These are the things that we're going to look at in making a decision. We want something that's a good value and offers good service. And that's, again, a very plain thing that wasn't in there before. But I've also added the ability to submit electronically, the ability to list any variances. In the past, we basically said, here's your package, this is it. And then if we had to, we could negotiate with someone after the fact. But I want to give the plow contractors, I think Dave mentioned this and they mentioned it, they want to be able to tell us what they think makes sense. So if they look at this proposal package and they say, well, you know what, I think it makes more sense to have 2 pickup trucks and 1 big dump truck, and I want to put up 5,000 yards instead of 2,500. If they want to propose that, we give them the freedom to do that. And in our structure for this proposal review process, we entertain the ability for the select board in consultation with the road committee to make informed decisions on those type of things. So we're welcoming feedback from the bidders and the proposers in the process. And that's a change that I think is pretty important. And then we ask for attachments. We also specify, the right to reject anything, accept anything, and really that's something that's been there before, but we fine-tuned that to be more consistent with our other language. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight is on the next page, the request for proposals. We want to have a streamlined RFI process, which is the request for information. And that means that if someone asks a question, we don't just answer them. We catalog it and we answer everybody. So everybody has the same information. And that's something that was important to the contractors too. And it's important to me. We don't want to have silos. I want everybody to know the same things. And if we have something that's unclear, I want everybody to get that same explanation. So if they have the same information, not a little bit different from one guy to the next. So that process wasn't necessarily in place in the same way that we have it now. And so I'm suggesting that we improve upon that and expand that. So those are the main points on the standard instructions and the RFI process. And I'll just stop there if you guys have any questions or comments.
I think it looks great. I think one of the big things too with having the options to hire that contractor after the term is up is a big deal, because the loyalty is a huge thing with contractors, and not knowing that they're going to be sold out in the next round. If we got somebody that's doing a great job and they're willing to come to the table and just say, hey, take next year.
I think we can see that by John's work, right? I mean, John's bids are always substantially less.
Always.
For stuff, because
it pays dividends. And I think that's what we're trying to recognize, is that those relationships are important. And that's another reason. So the next page that has highlights, I'm just going to run through these really quick, unless you want me to do something different. But the proposal form, we never had an explanation of what we were looking for with the narratives, right? And I'm trying to emphasize those, because I think that there are guys out there, and people maybe that might be working together as a collective, that they're not necessarily familiar with how the town does this, right? And if we can say, well, hey, this is what we're looking for. We want to know, who your guys are. We also want to tell you that we know they're going to change. So we're just looking for tell us what you've got, give us your best proposal. And by doing this, we highlight what's important to us. And we also give them the ability to give us better information, right? So this, under the corporate experience, that's not something that everybody might be familiar with, but we kind of go through it and say, hey, we just want to know, what kind of bookkeeping you have, who's going to do it for you. Do you use QuickBooks? They might talk about, how they manage $2 million contracts for the state of Maine. That's the type of stuff that's going to be really good for us to know. So trying to give them opportunity to give us good information. The on the bid form itself, the proposal form, I did change from on item 2, 3,500 to 2,500 for yards of material. And I did that because there have been years where we've only used 2,500 yards of material. And I think that having kind of a floor for the amount of material that we initially want makes sense. And then we have provisions later on in the contract that say, well, if the town wants more material, we're going to have to get it in 500-yard increments. So that takes a little bit of burden off those guys. So I can't say to John, like I did one time, hey, John, I need 200 yards. And he has to scramble to get all that stuff together. And it's not a lot of revenue for him. But with this, it gives us some more control over what we get, maybe helps with cost savings, but also is fair to the contractor. Yep. So I think that that's another important note. And then the last thing on that proposal form basically is on page 99 of the packet, item 4 that says, acknowledge that it may be in the best interest of the proposer and town to modify the terms and conditions of this contract and agree to negotiate any such terms in good faith following award and before execution. So what that is, again, it's another open door saying, hey, you got your variances that you might want to talk about. We can't necessarily accept those right off, but we know what you want, and we might want certain things based on what you presented to us for information. So we know we want to work with you. We're gonna agree to work with you, and then we're going to negotiate a little bit and come up with a contract that works for everybody. So that's another provision that really gets to that idea that we want to bring in the contractor as a partner. And then you get into the contract itself, and things get a bit more technical. I did modify the term of the contract to say that it's 5 years with the ability to extend for up to, I think I said 3 years more, and that was.
Was it 7?
Total of 8.
8.
Total of 8, yep.
Total. Yep.
Right, because
So-
the bond thing dropped off at the last 3 years to 0%.
Yeah,
Right.
Yep. So it was 8, and that was something Dave heard loud and clear from the contractors. Was they wanted a longer term.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
It makes buying the equipment worthwhile.
exactly. I mean, if you go with a business proposal to borrow money, and you say, I got a 1-year plow contract, and like, yeah. If you got a 5-year contract, you've got term to make it. It makes more sense to pay for your equipment if you were going to borrow and buy it.
Okay.
I would
Yes,
think that
this
would
is
I
great
do
order.
have a question on, if I'm skipping too far ahead, let me know. It's on page 10. And this is just me being persnickety in 7B.
Yep.
If they fail to adequately respond to any storm event, blah, blah, within the 30 minutes, there'll be a penalty of $500 assessed to the next monthly contract. I think there needs to be an each in there.
Okay.
So
Yep.
for each occurrence, because you could have someone who's going to respond after an hour every time. And if there's 7 storms in a month and they're only getting one $500 penalty, that's not a whole lot on the hundreds of thousands of dollars they're getting. But if it's $500 every time you do that, I think it makes it a little stronger.
Yeah, no, that's a point of clarification. I think it's worth being in there. And that language about that penalty was in the old contract. And I think it's, it makes sense to have a little bit of accountability there. But again, we've tried to moderate it. And I did look at the work standards. I highlighted those because we did take out a lot of specificity that really didn't belong there. So we're asking them to, to be.
Eric did all the work.
Well, I mean, I'm just responding to information I got.
That's really good.
And we did also, something else is we kind of gave them the ability to accept payment in a different term. I mean, a lot of them said, well, we want to be paid every month because that's how we make our payments on our equipment is monthly. And that might make sense for some folks to do it that way. If it was me, I'd probably take the first option, get my money up front, put it in the bank, get some interest, and then, but they said, hey, we want some flexibility in how we do this. So we offered that. And if somebody wants to suggest something else, we're open to it. Let's see, other important stuff here. Yeah, we did modify and kind of make a little bit lighter the physical equipment requirements to say 3 trucks and 3 large trucks with 2 of them having plows, and then 2 1-tons or 1.5 with 1 of them having a plow. Because we have found that a lot of times the contractors, they don't need to have a sander in every truck. And in some cases, they've got trucks that don't have a plow and they all do sand. But we want to give them the ability to figure out what they want. Those standards are minimum. There's no way someone could do the town with just that equipment, right? But we wanted to set a minimum and give them the flexibility to tell us what they needed. And that's where that schedule on the back end comes in.
And that was one of those things that we talked about as well, is, mandating you have to own a grader or you have to own a loader.
Yeah.
That we could, with the flexibility part of it, you could say, well, I've got a letter of intent, Dave has a loader and it's parked here and that's at my discretion anytime I need to use it, rather than having to go spend $75,000 to buy a loader to just sit there for when you need it.
Yeah, exactly. And so carrying on with that too, on the page 105, we had mixed ratios, and it says that, hey, they can be adjusted. This is open for negotiation. If someone wants to talk about an 8-to-1 instead of a 10-to-1 ratio, that's great. We'll talk about it. So we did give some flexibility there instead of saying it must be this, it shall be this. Yes, the contract does say it can be amended, but it's nice to have that in there. It gives people the idea that we're working with them. Then moving on to G in that same section. This is something that I put in because I feel strongly that we're probably putting down too much material. I just wanted to cue to anybody looking at this that we want to be conservative. I want contractors to look at this and say, the town wants them to apply material in a way that makes it safe for reasonable travel, right? So if someone wants bare asphalt all the time so that their light duty vehicle can get on with summer tires, cool. We're not doing that. I want to see this be a level of service that is reasonable, because if we have that incredibly high level of service, it's going to cost us money. It is costing us money.
It is costing us money.
So I just wanted to cue to the contractors that, hey.
And that's a really tough thing to articulate into words,
But we also don't want to have a storm where they plow and don't ever put it down anything, because then that's not safe.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So you're leaving a
and
window.
that's the hard thing to articulate in words. I mean, one person's standards aren't the next person's, and
But you've got those important intersections listed, so that's a key.
We've got some guardrails in place for that type of thing. Yeah,
I think most people are reasonable to that you would work with. That would.
I mean, there are some intersections and some lawns where people end up with 6 inches of sand by the end of the season, and that's kind of silly.
Yep, it is, and it's hard. I mean, sometimes it's safety, and sometimes it's they turn it on by my house because they want me to see the brown on the road, and I tell them thanks, I don't need it. But in any event, we also made some changes to the mailbox language, because that was talked about at that meeting. And basically, it just says that, we want the contractor to be responsive. We want them to think about customer service, but we also don't expect them to pay for replacing a rotten mailbox post, because I can't tell you how many times I've had to go out and look, and it's, the mailbox is snapped off, but it's dry rotted.
Bird landed on it.
Yeah, it's dry rotted all the way through. So again, we want to hold the contractor to a certain standard, but we also want to be fair. And so that's reflected in that piece.
Can I go back to page 108 real quick?
Sure, yeah.
So section 14 says bond would decrease by 20% every year, goes from 100 to 60.
Yes, that's a typo. Yeah.
And then there was somewhere else, I can't find it now, where you clearly changes from a 3-year contract to a 5-year contract.
Yes.
And there was some language that got missed. I can't find it now. I'll look for it later.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll flag the percentages there, and that is that's a mistake, so I'll fix that.
Well, and just do a word search on 3.
Yep.
That bond is real money now, when you're talking a $400,000 contract, so that's a big.
Is it expensive?
Well, I mean, if you're talking that percentage of that big of a contract, yeah. It's a lot of money. So that's helpful to have the bond go down.
Yeah.
And I think it does show that trust and that relationship, you know, that we want to keep you around, we want to make it worth your while, and we want to save you and us some money.
And so all of this, Eric, you expect to have us voting on the February 24th meeting?
Possibly. I mean, this is very ambitious. I wanted to get.
That was the word I was going to use.
Well, so here's what I think should happen, right? Realistically, is that we should, the road committee is going to talk about this on Thursday. I'm going to make the changes that we talked about tonight. I'd like to bring this back to the select board at your next, well, I mean, I guess it would have to be January meeting.
Right.
And we'll just set the schedule from there, and we'll give them about 6 weeks to get things together and get the proposal in. Again, you know, we don't need them to have the equipment. We just need them to have a relationship with a financial institution or capital enough to say, I can actually do this. So give them a time. And I think it would probably be closer to the end of March that we would have this sorted out. But
Yeah, because we really want it for the budget, for sure.
we need it for the budget.
We need it for the budget.
Yeah.
So,
But you'll have them a month earlier. Because he's made it, so the pre-bid is on the 8th of January. That'll be before our January meeting.
can you do this without having this approved by us? I don't think so. No.
I mean, I could, but I mean, you could always say that we approve with the changes that were discussed tonight.
That's what I'm
Contingent
thinking.
upon road
Yes.
committee approval. But that's really up to you how you want to do that.
I don't think this needs a second, is what I think. I think we just need to fix the couple little
I'm
things.
good with it, yeah.
I don't
Okay.
think we
But
need
then
to.
you had it due when in February, right?
Yeah, so that you could make a selection at your February meeting at the end of the month. Yep.
Well,
So
I
maybe
would,
that should be a little later.
well, I would entertain a motion that we approve with edits that we've mentioned tonight. And with any updates from the road committee, which we have elected and trust to make those.
Sounds like a motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
That's a lot of work. Thank you,
That's
Dave,
great.
for really following through on that.
Geez, Lee, I didn't know you were on here again.
Oh, yeah.
Come on up, Lee.
Again?
Tell us about the emergency operations.
He's gonna
plan.
scold us again, you know.
Yeah, there's an animal before.
Yeah.
What can I do this?
Well, I don't know.
Eric's going through and updated any of the pertinent information in the emergency operations plan with the contacts. He's also added some new stuff due to the radio station. So I will give it to Eric to
Yeah, I was
let
thinking
you
that was
guys
our
exactly
only
know what he
changes
did,
this year, right?
because
That's what I saw,
unfortunately
other
I've
than
been
just-
busy and haven't been able to touch bases with him Friday like we'd planned, so.
Well, I told Lee that I was going to make him record a public service announcement on Friday, and he just didn't show up for 2 weeks in a row.
If you want to get rid of me, that's all you got to tell me.
There's gotta be someone on the department that would love to hear themselves on the
Yeah,
radio.
well, I know there is. And,
Yeah.
Cause I'm sure
The-
they're on the radios.
The deputy emergency management director is gonna be our public servant, but
All right.
I mean, Eric is technically the public information officer, so.
Right.
And Lee's right about that. And so this plan, I mean, and that's, you know, just to highlight the purpose of the plan, it's to give assigned roles, right? And to give a basic operating procedure for what happens during emergencies, and then provide some resources. So this plan does that. Lee is the primary field and service leader, I guess, the incident commander, and among other things. And then we all basically do our roles. Lee is the fire chief. Lee does that maintenance. He might help. They might help organize equipment and reach out to contractors. I would be responsible for that communication piece primarily. The select board, you would come in and vote on spending money if we need you to. And those basically, this really is as simple as that. It just identifies roles. Normally, consistent with what you already are doing, and then puts it all together in an organized framework.
Catherine has 3 different titles in this document.
Oh, does she?
She is the chair, the vice chair, and a member.
So on page
So we don't need to be here
27,
next time.
Dave's missing completely once. No, just kidding.
on page 27, you need to fix chair and vice chair.
Okay, yeah.
You did put in Rebecca in place of Steve.
You
That was
did.
good. And you fixed Angela.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm vice chair and
Yep, and then it's wrong on page 28.
Yeah, those schedules, I really wish I could just delete them and just do one that's alphabetical, but it has it 3 different ways. So
oh, that's annoying.
depending on what information you're looking for. But what I need to do is just delete 2 of them and then take one and then sort it differently. And then
Yeah, it's
reinsert.
27, 28, and 29. If
Okay,
you just go to those 3, you'll catch all of those.
all right, I will do that. But it really was just minor edits.
Yeah,
Although,
what's-
yeah.
We're just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, I need it. I need it.
So for Rebecca's knowledge base, Lee, so I don't do it, can you just tell her what the basic purpose of the select board is if we had, say, a plane crash or a train derailment or some large explosion in a building? How are we involved in this plan? What would she need to do?
Because we're gonna be spending money. We're gonna be bleeding money on that stuff, so we need you folks to okay all that stuff. Is basically what it is. And to keep the citizens updated and come up with, plans if God forbid something like that happens and we have to bring in a bunch of agencies. We've got to provide housing, places for them to stay while they're here. So much like the National Guard, when they come in, you guys are kind of making arrangements for them. Obviously, they're going to stay in their tents, but the fire station's there, so they got places to shower. So it's that same thing. So if everything turns upside down, your role in the select board becomes much more crucial, depending on the.
So we might meet daily. We talk only when asked. That was a big thing they found out in Lewiston with the shooter thing, that they had different council members that started giving interviews to television stations. And Eric is the one who speaks. And then that way, nothing goes that isn't approved. It's not that we're trying to hide information, but you want to give the right information.
The right information, truthful information.
Right.
And if something like that happens every day, we'll have, depending on what it is, we might have 3 briefings a day. Or we might have 1, or we might have 1 every other day. And it keeps everybody on the same page. Because you're an essential part of Readfield's government. So we all need to be on the same page.
We wouldn't necessarily have to leave work to be here all day, every day, but we need to be available to come in as needed. If we can get there, if it's like the thing that separates the town in half. But basically, there are all sorts of people in the town employment who will do all of those things. We're just sort of approving extra pay and so on, but it has to be done regularly and at certain times before an agency will do something. Do you have approval? So we have to have at least enough of us together to make approval.
The other thing I noticed in here is 4 of us names are in red for not having the training. It's really bad. It's now getting up there. So
To be, Not to say that's okay, but we're still waiting on.
I know we've been
that-
waiting, so
that
maybe
course, and
they'll-
They haven't done it. I mean.
Well, didn't they try to do it 2 years ago and they got canceled because of snow? Right?
And,
I
and
think
we've
that-
been trying to get it back
Right.
up and.
Yeah, so I just
So
wanted
we're,
to say.
we're working on it because I know there's some people out there, but if the course isn't available,
I mean,
you
we-
can't take it.
Right, but I think though we should, I don't know who we ask or how we.
We'll talk to the county. I do it every year and ask them, so we'll do it again.
Angela Molino should love to come out and do that for us at a select board meeting.
Wayne's got
Was
some
it
people
last
that
year,
need
but
it.
was like on one of the nights of the joint committees.
That's right. Yeah, they did it only once. They did it in Fayette and you had to be there in person. It was the same
Right.
night we had a budget meeting.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
how
yeah,
about if
so-
we just see if she's the emergency management director for the county. She's really nice.
Oh, do you want to do that?
I can set, no, Eric should do it.
Make a motion.
But, I mean, certainly I can talk to her, but I think if she came out, she could,
You guys need a G403 course, so.
okay, but
I-
maybe
I
she
know-
could arrange for it.
We've been trying to work one up and so far we haven't come up with one.
But maybe if you request it and tell her I was
I will
asking.
request it and I'll have you be my follow-up.
Good.
I mean, 4 out of 5 of us is bad. 4 out of 5.
She'll
of us.
remember me because I'm the one who turned down the MD3 program last year. And then I went to a concert at Snow Pond and who did I walk into? Dr. Tim Pay, who introduced me to his wife as the woman who turned down his program. That might have been me who suggested that, but it was, wow.
But if you guys are that, want to do all that, ICS 800 that you can do online.
Good job, Tom.
Would give you kind of a foot in and gives you kind of an idea of what's going to be happening.
How long does it take to do that? 20 minutes, half an hour?
You can do it in 30 minutes. It just-
ICS 800?
ICS 800.
Can you send a link to Eric?
You can, it's easy, go to FEMA ICS 800. But
Eric, can you send that out to all of us?
FEMA ICS 800, yes, ma'am.
Because we won't do it if you tell us to do that. I know us.
Now the government's open, now you can go on there and do something.
There you go.
When
We
they're shut
noticed the
down, you
world
can even
ended
go
when they
on
were closed.
online and do anything.
Anything else you need on this one, Eric?
Yeah, I had one more piece, but I think
Oh, I'm
Rebecca
sorry.
wanted to make a motion.
To extend the meeting 10 minutes?
Oh,
Second.
no, I'm not entertaining.
Sharon wants to amend that to 6 minutes, he says.
We can do
I'll
it
take
six.
10. All
Well,
those.
I got 6 minutes on this piece and then we'll.
All right.
Yeah.
You have 6, go.
Yeah. So anyway, we talked about the radio. I wanted to share a really quick thing on the radio. And it talks about how Readfield Radio is part of our emergency response. So I'm going to share this audio and you should be queued up and I will,
Oh, he really means 6 minutes.
I'll play something. Let's see.
Readfield Radio Communications. Readfield Radio operates on a frequency of 94.5 FM and broadcasts 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Our station is licensed with the FCC as a low-power transmitter limited to 100 watts and an effective range of 3 to 5 miles. We can reach most areas in Readfield without interference or static, with topography having the biggest impact. We provide important community information, school updates, music, local history, and other programming to engage and inform our listeners. But the ability to provide emergency communications is an essential part of the station's mission. We do this in 2 ways: through participation in the National Emergency Alert System, EAS, and through the broadcast of local emergency information. Emergency Alert System Summary. The Emergency Alert System, EAS, is a national warning system in the United States designed to allow authorized officials to broadcast emergency alerts and warning messages to the public via cable, satellite, and broadcast television, and AM, FM, and satellite radio. These alerts inform you of danger, shelter instructions, or official information. EAS alerts don't follow a single script, but follows a standard format composed of multiple parts. 1. The first part is a specific area message encoding, or SAME header. This message allows radio receivers monitoring the airwaves to recognize and then rebroadcast the alert while also accepting digitally encoded information. Think of it like a typed sentence where individual letters are made bold to represent a dash and plain text letters represent a dot. This effectively delivers 2 messages in one, and something similar happens with the radio signal. Here's a sample SAME header. 2. The second part is an attention signal. This gives listeners a roughly 20-second notice that a message is coming. Here's what an attention signal sounds like.
Got my attention.
Sounds like nothing.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to do a little bit more than that, but anyway.
Is the message. A, event-specific message content. 1, national or presidential, rarely used but would announce a major threat. 2, state or local, governor or MEMA, Maine Emergency Management Agency, for statewide issues, e.g. severe weather, civil emergencies. 3, weather, NWS, National Weather Service, for tornadoes, floods, severe storms. 4, Amber Alerts, for missing children. B, affected area. And C, duration. The final part of an EAS message is a digitally encoded end of message marker. This tone sounds similar to the header but contains different information and tells the receiving equipment to return to regular programming. In summary, an EAS alert interrupts normal programming to give critical, location-specific safety information using standard formats for different threats. As part of our federal licensure, Readfield Radio is required to participate in the EAS program and has special monitoring equipment to receive and then transmit these messages. All EAS participants must monitor a minimum of 2 EAS sources and are required to perform and catalog weekly equipment tests. This redundancy and testing ensures that critical EAS messages are delivered. At the state level, more information on EAS and other emergency messages is available from Maine.gov's Citizen Alert System, and the Maine Emergency Management Agency, MEMA, also has resources including official plans and information. Local emergency information. Unlike the EAS program, local broadcasts of emergency information is much more flexible and is not preceded by special tomes or encrypted information. We have the opportunity to deliver the information we want, how and when we choose. We also have the ability to pre-record safety tips and general emergency information that can be added to our broadcast schedule daily, weekly, or monthly, or manually included during an emergency event. Examples of these public service announcements, PSAs, could include the location of warming or cooling shelters and safety tips for extreme heat or cold, information about where to find and how to install smoke and CO detectors, how to protect your home and property from forest fires, where to find potable water in town during a power outage, what to do if your well runs dry due to drought, and brown-tail moth information, and so on. Creating a catalog of PSAs is an important part of our communication strategy and one of our next steps as we develop our station programming. We also have the opportunity to live broadcast during an emergency to tell residents what roads might be closed or where there is flooding, really anything that needs to be communicated. For example, the discussion of the emergency operations plan and emergency communications we are having at the select board meeting, which is being broadcast live on Readfield Radio, among other media, is a form of emergency communication that could just as easily be happening in response to a disaster.
So anyway, I put that together in that format so you could see that we could take something like that or a pre-recorded message and just broadcast it, just like we just did.
Who was
So,
our narrator?
That was an AI voice from Google. Did a fine
I
job.
was gonna say, he had an awful different voice, didn't he?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
It
and
was
so-
a pleasant voice.
A pleasant voice. And so if someone doesn't want to
Hear
speak,
Lee.
they can
That's
just
not
type
nice.
a message and we can put it in to the system. So anyway, I just wanted to
Say,
highlight
Lee.
that capacity.
So
Say
just
what you
type,
wanna say.
Something like that.
just go home, Lee,
Yeah, Lee.
type it up. No,
I think you can even take a picture of yourself and it will create a person that looks just like you saying it. I've seen that done.
Really?
Yeah.
yes.
That's cool.
But we're not getting that too involved. I just wanted to have some audio so you could see and hear how that might be communicated and get it out there on the waves. Now that's out there and we can take that audio clip once I fix the tones and rebroadcast it, once in a while to help people that are listening to the station understand how it works, right? So
I'll make a motion to accept the emergency operations plan with edits as mentioned in the meeting.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous.
We have 2 minutes.
26044, discuss the town manager annual review and contract process. Who would like to take some aspects of, I can't believe we're at that time of year again.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yep. So we have.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you. In the past, with support from folks in the town office, members of the board take on different components and work through contact with those and collecting the information for us to help formalize this.
We're going to do it the same way as the last couple of years with the Survey Monkey.
I'd like to try it with the Google version of that, but yeah, we'll do a similar survey, yes.
So all we are volunteering for is to take those comments and read them to each other at a executive session when we discuss.
Yeah. So who would like to do employees?
Me.
Great, Catherine will do employees. Who would like to do board, committee, and commission chairs?
Who did it last year?
Rebecca, thank you. Major vendors and interlocal partners.
I think I had that.
You sure did last year.
Sure.
Jaren, will you take public?
Got it.
Wonderful. Magical. And then do we need to set a date?
We need to authorize or ask Eric to have Teresa send it out. Well, first you have to create it on the Google thing now.
Yeah, so we'll just follow the same format and process as last year with the different roles, and we'll attempt to migrate to Google. If not, we can just use SurveyMonkey because we've already paid for the subscription. So,
okay.
Perfect. All right. So we're good on that. Next item, 26045, set the quarterly meeting calendar for January through March. So we're only doing one meeting in January. Is that what I'm seeing? Well, one.
And a joint meeting with
and
the
a
budget.
And a joint meeting.
2 in February, 2 in March, 2 in April with a
3
joint,
in April, yeah. Yeah, sorry.
1 in May with a joint.
Yep.
Is the 15th in April, Eric, is that the one where we do the public can make comments? And we can actually revise from that still, but then the 20th is that public hearing just before the election.
Correct.
And vote. I think that's an awesome schedule.
Yeah, I don't see any issues that I can flag and or think of.
Which is the
We
week.
don't have the school, right? We don't have any of the school.
oh, I don't know. That's up to them. I can't tell you what they're doing.
I know, but it's not out there yet for their.
Yeah, what happened
They,
with that
I think
last
it is out. I can find
For
out.
the one with the town? It
Yeah,
is?
they
Okay.
have that schedule out already, but I can look and.
Yeah, we just want to put that on there because last year, I don't think any of us.
Jaren was there.
I went.
Jaren was the one that went, okay.
And
It was on my son's birthday, I
our
think, last
school
year.
vacations meeting weeks we're not meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that's been filtered through.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't schedule anything on Valentine's Day like that one time, so I think we're okay.
That was silly. Yep.
Are we all good with this through June?
I think we look great. Any other business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh my goodness. All those in favor? Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Read a fabulous.